Welcome to my tarot card reading for the month of December 2013. I'm going to start a little bit different from usual. I'm going to start with the astrological cards first. And we have here the Seven of Cups with Moon Scorpio. And then we have the Ten of Wands or Staff with Sun Sagittarius. And this is a very interesting dynamic that we're seeing for December 2013. Remember, Sagittarius, house number 9, is about philosophy, spirituality, religion. Is all related with how we perceive the world that we live in. Is that those mental processes that help us understand and expand our horizons, our perceptions. And the tarot cards are saying that this is going to be affected or affected during the month of December. There are going to be changes in that aspect, meaning that conventional wisdom, conventional traditional philosophy, ways of seeing and understanding things might be obsolete, and we're going to start seeing different ways, different methods of doing or thinking or analyzing something different. In other words, it means that the emergence of political parties or politicians or economists, that they're going to start seeing the problems that we're seeing nowadays different. Their approach is going to be different. That's what we're talking about, a change in that matter. What we have here is then a very interesting dynamic. We have Oshun, Iku, and Karma. Then we have Iku that is pointing out to changes, transformation, something that is going to die. And I already mentioned it, what it is here with these two cards. Now, here we have Oshun, and Oshun was the only Orisha able or capable of winning a war. And how she did it? With love. The story of this Orisha is to point out that sometimes when there are two opposites, love and understanding is the glue for this. But the interesting thing is that Iku is letting us know that this time is not going to work. There's going to be a disparity. There's going to be a conflict. There's going to be a separation, a split of philosophies, of ways of thinking, analyzing, understanding, and solving the problem. Traditional versus radical. That's what we're talking about. And this is going to create a very interesting dynamic where going to be a lot of conflicts, chaos is going to be revolutionary. Literally or symbolically speaking. That's what the tarot cards are talking about for the month of December. And having this in mind, then let's pay attention to the rest of the reading. For the first week of December, we have the Seven of Cups represented here. The Seven of Cups is about dreams. Is building castles on the clouds, and that's what it's all about. Building castles on the clouds. Not very realistic, but remember, this is December, and that's the time of the year of resolutions and all that kind of stuff. So we probably are seeing here this dynamic of the end of the year represented on the first week of December. So we were going to start seeing politicians, individuals, economies or whatever being very idealistic or with ideas that are very idealistic. Like I said, dreams. By the second week of December, we're going to start seeing that things are going to be a little bit more conflictive. A lot of confusion. Conflicts, confusion, and things that get out of hands, out of control. Okay? Then by the third week, we have a lot of contemplation going on. is going to be a time of thinking, probably because we are approaching the end of the year, and there's going to be a lot of thinking, rethinking, a lot of analysis, contemplation, rumination. That's the whole process. But this card also represents Scorpio, so a lot of changes, transformation are going to start happening or manifesting during the third week of December. By the last week of December, we have here, we have to remember that December 25th is practically the last week of December. And this card represents when we're buying and selling. But at the same time, when I see this card, what I feel is more austerity. This feeling of austerity, saving, a lot of saving. You're going to understand why I'm more inclined to this interpretation of saving, austerity, all this kind of stuff. Is being kind of selfish, but not in the bad way. It's not in the, but in the good way. When you're egocentric, when you're like gathering for you, saving, gathering for you. That's what this tarot card means. And this is the kind of situation that we're going to start seeing by the end of the year 2013. Now, when we put together the cards in vertical or horizontal lines, we have, in a vertical line, we have the Nine of Cups with the Seven of Cups. And the tarot cards are letting us know that what we're going to start seeing during the month of December is a lot of analysis, contemplation, philosophical debates about the economy, the politics, how realistic they are. That's what's going to be happening. And a lot of changes, restructuring. So people are going to be faced with whatever happened throughout the whole year, and they're going to be faced with reality, and they're going to realize that all that was just that, a dream. It wasn't realistic. And then there's going to spring out of this a lot of restructuring, a lot of changes, a lot of thinking, mental processes. Remember, radical ways of thinking, new philosophical ways of understanding things. Then we have here in a horizontal line the out of control situation that I'm talking about. And because this is a coin, a pentacle, this economy, austerity. Not only austerity, selling, buying. We're going to start seeing that the economy in some way, somehow, is going to start getting out of control during the month of December. And that's why I'm more inclined that this card during the fourth week of December represents more savings. But not saving because you want to, saving because we are seeing that things are getting out of hands and we get scared, worried, and we start saving for better times or for worse times, whichever way you want to see it. Okay? And that's what the tarot cards are saying. So don't be surprised that during the month of December we start seeing that the economy and the finances start getting out of control. When we put all together the cards, the vertical and horizontal line, what we see here is the Page of Swords representing a sense of paranoia, being defensive, in the defensive mode. So we're going to start seeing many countries, many nations on the defensive mode, like paranoid, with all this economic chaos, or whatever you want to call it. If you want to sound more dramatic, whatever you want to call it. We're going to see this out of control situation, and countries are going to be on the defensive mode. And when I'm talking about defensive mode, I'm referring that there are going to be a lot of rules, and we can start thinking about currency wars, taxes that are going to be imposed to anything that is imported in order to protect their local production, etc. This is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. And then here, what we have is the Knight of Pentacles. Notice that there's a lot of mental process of analysis again regarding the economy, Pentacle. contemplations. Nations are going to be analyzing, but they're going to be in a very defensive mode, like paranoid. And this is the kind of dynamic that we're going to start seeing during the month of December 2013. And here we have what I call the trilogy. The trilogy is composed by the Fourth of Pentacles, the Six of Pentacles, and the Seven of Swords. And briefly, what it means is there's going to be austerity, there's going to be situations where a third party is going to intervene. And I'm talking about the International Monetary Fund, central banks around the world, Troika, all the kind of stuff. There are going to be interventions where people are going to need help from a third party. That's what I'm talking about. And this card only represents when we're seeking help. So nations are going to start seeking help, monetary help. They're going to depend on a third party. That's what are we talking about. That's the kind of dynamic. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So here we have the Knight of Cups and the Knight of Swords. Notice the Knight of Swords, he's jumping into action without thinking, while the Knight of Cups, representing the process of thinking and contemplation, structural changes and blah blah blah. So we're going to start seeing that nations are, this represents actually a clash, but nations are going to jump into action without thinking. They're going to start doing things without analyzing that much at the end. At the end, after so much thinking and analysis, they're going to jump and do whatever. Okay? It might sound irrational, but who said that politics are rational? Okay? And then we have here these other two cards. We have the Fool with the Seven of Cups. And what we're seeing here is that what I said, radical ways of thinking, non-conventional way of thinking that might sound very idealistic, like castles in the clouds or whatever way you want to explain it. We're going to start seeing that many people are going to start jumping in that wagon on something different, something radical, even if it sounds impossible, difficult, idealistic, or way too optimistic, way out of the traditional and conventional ways of doing things. That's the tendency that we're going to start seeing during the month of December 2013. And now we have the end of the reading. We have the Ten of Cups, we have the Six of Swords, and the Nine of Cups. And this is very simple. Here we have, what we see is that nations are going to be drawn into their own matters, domestic issues. That's the word that I was looking for. Domestic issues. They're going to be concentrating on that. Obviously, with all that what I mentioned, companies and nations, politicians, they're going to concentrate on these issues. But notice that the Nine of Cups here is showing a different perspective, and that's where what I said here about radical ways of thinking to solve problems are going to be enforced or promoted during the month of December, where the traditional ways of solving domestic issues, domestic problems, are going to be left behind and start with something different that might sound way too idealistic, like castles on the clouds. And that's the reading for December 2013.